Hello, hello, hello. It's day 2 of the summit, y'all. I hope you've had a wonderful Tuesday. I hope you're feeling great and excited and not too tired from the day for our second day of the summit. So happy to have you here. My name's Alstyne. I'm the creator and host of the Grad School Success Summit and the podcast Blackened in Grad School. And welcome, 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 welcome. I'm going to give folks a couple minutes to join. I see a couple of people joining in now. We've got quite a few folks in the webinar, and I'll be checking our event platform. We've got some people on the event platform too. So it's going to be good, y'all. It's going to be good. So I want to start the summit as we do each day with a big thank you to our presenting sponsor, The Professor Is In, and our sponsors, Bumble and Non-Tradish. They made this thing happen. I'm going to tell you all about more of our sponsors tomorrow, but I just want to thank them so much for their support and their major contribution to the summit. And then I want to thank again the ladies behind the Grad School Success Summit. If you watch the welcome video, you know there are 7 hardworking women behind the scenes getting all of these things together, answering your questions in the chat. If you're on the talk chat, if you have any like service issues in the email, on Instagram, on Twitter, here to serve you. And I just want to thank them again for all their work and dealing with my craziness for the last couple of weeks as we pull this together. Lastly, I want to just okay. Well, the last thing I was going to say is to tell you, remember to use the hashtag GSSS2021, tag Black in Grad School, tag Jennifer, as you all are enjoying this session. And with that said, I'm going to actually introduce our speaker for tonight. I'm so excited. I was actually sharing with Jennifer before we got started that she is one of the people I found online when I first started Black in Grad School, and I've just admired her work so much. And so I am really, and she's been a supporter of the summit easily the last 3 out of 4 years, if not all 4. And so I'm so grateful that she has decided to join us today and share her expertise. It's going to be good. So let me tell you why it's going to be good. Jennifer is a communication strategist for professors and researchers. And at the Academic Designer, she helps people and organizations share their work effectively online, which we know is so important as the world we're living in right now. The Social Academic blog shares advice, articles, and interviews on managing your online presence. Jennifer is a Peruvian-American poet with a BA in English from Monmouth University, an MFA in Writing Poetics from the Jack Kerouac School, and an MA in English from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. You can connect with her on social media at Higher Ed PR, and of course on her website, jennifervanalstyne.com. She has a bunch of amazing resources. Let's give her some love. Do the raise hand in the chat to let her know that you're here. But thank you, Jennifer, for sharing, and I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Alstyne. All right, let's get started. So my name is Jennifer Van Alstyne. I'm so excited to talk with you today about how talking about yourself online can help your real life. And to get started, I want to share with you 5 things about me. So first, I am a poet. I live in San Diego, California with my fiance, Matthew. We have 2 rescue cats named Bartlett and Ash. And I love watching reality television. This is one of my favorite things to do. I own a company called the Academic Designer LLC, where I help people talk about what they do online. I work with professors, scientists, and organizations around the world. And today I'm talking about why being able to talk about yourself online can help you, especially when you're in grad school. So here's the agenda. We'll talk about how scary it is to be found online for so many people, but that you have more control than you think. There are so many benefits of having an online presence, especially in grad school. And we're going to talk about some of the ways to start managing your online presence. And I'll get into why LinkedIn is my top recommendation for grad students, especially for networking. Then we'll wrap it up. And I promise there's going to be plenty of time for questions. So do drop any questions that you have in the Q&A section. So first, have you Googled yourself before? Have you ever Googled yourself? Do me a favor and answer in the chat, yes or no. Have you Googled yourself before? Let me open the chat just so I have it. Yes, yes, a bunch of yeses. So when some people Google themselves, a lot of results come up. For others, it's really difficult to find search results that are about them, like really difficult. Maybe you can't find any. The first mentions of my name could be found online because of Monmouth University, where I went to undergrad. I was super involved with the campus because it really was my home. My parents actually passed away before I went to college, so I lived on campus year round. I had a lot of on-campus jobs. I was a resident assistant, a tutor, a peer mentor. I raised funds for the school. I was a conference and events coordinator. And I got involved with a lot of clubs and activities. I was president of the English Honor Society, editor of the College Literary Journal, and I wrote for the newsletter. When I lived on campus, I had a lot of time to spend time on campus. I couldn't afford a car, so this is kind of what I did with my time. The first mentions of my name online were about an academic award, a fundraising video that I was featured in for the university, and a conference presentation I did about my senior thesis. I wasn't someone who felt comfortable talking about myself ever, especially online. But these are still things that I talk about today. They're still things that show up online. These are the types of results that might show up online if you Google yourself now: bios, social media profiles, and mentions of your name, like in a blog post, newsletter, or maybe a local news article. The search results that include these three things are what make up your online presence. For many people, that can be scary. You may have some fear or anxiety about being found online. For many, being found by Google is a scary thing. And what if someone searches your name and like a bad photo of you comes up? You don't want your future employer to get the wrong impression. That fear or anxiety is normal. Have you ever worried about what might show up if someone Googles your name? Let me know in the chat. I used to be really worried about being found online. I was scared because I'd been in an abusive relationship. Being seen didn't feel safe to me at all. All my social media accounts were private. And I was also anxious because some of my friends on social media had like a lot of followers. I didn't even know that many people, and I was worried if people would even care about what I said. I also knew there were some things you generally don't want to show up online, like swearing or profanity, photos of drinking or drugs, and revealing photos or nudity. There are reasons to be anxious about being online. Privacy concerns are real, but you have more control than you think. There are things that you can do to have more control over your online presence. These are the types of results that tend to show up when you Google yourself. Having a personal website or an online portfolio is another way to manage your online presence. Social media profiles do tend to show up high in Google search results. Are you on social media? Do your profiles show up in Google? Bios are usually something that's requested from you. That means that you have control over what your bio says. Your social media profiles are also something you have control over. You can choose what to post, what's included on your profile, and even if your profiles are public. Although when you are going on the job market, I do recommend your social media profiles are public and you'll want to be on LinkedIn. Other mentions of your name online tend to happen when you're involved in something that's being written about or shared. For me, it was mentions from my university, the award I won, the fundraising video, and the conference presentation I did based on my honors thesis that was mentioned in a school newsletter and in the conference program, which was online. And that's a lot for someone coming out of college. I'm sharing these specifically with you because honestly, there's more I could have talked about if I'd felt comfortable being online. If I'd been less afraid of putting myself out there, I could have talked more about my time at school online. Remember all these things that I was involved in? They didn't stop being relevant when I graduated from college. At the time, I could have posted about them on social media or on a personal website. I could have written about my experience for the school newsletter. Even though I was involved with these years ago, they're on my LinkedIn profile. I've spoken about these in grad school and job interviews. I've shared these when talking to clients. They're still applicable today. Many of you are entering or in grad school. The things you learn in college, the things you learn in grad school will help you long after you graduate. Some people you meet in person will Google you online to learn a bit more about you. And some people you connect with online may become a part of your life in person. You have some control over what people see when they Google you online, what people can learn about you, how people can connect with you, and how people can get in touch. The best way to start doing this is with a bio and a selfie. Take a selfie that you can use as a headshot. Having a bio and a selfie ready to go just in case is the first step to managing your online presence. Let's look at an example. I'm going to show you what my bio would have looked like maybe at the end of college. Here is a selfie of me at the end of my last year in college. Sure, it's not the best photo. I'm kind of squinting, but it would totally work. My bio then probably would have read something like Jennifer Van Alstyne is an English and creative writing student at Monmouth University. She's editor of the Monmouth Review and president of Sigma Tau Delta, the English Honor Society. When she's not writing poetry, she's organizing events for the freshman dorm where she's a resident assistant. When I got into grad school, my bio changed because the things I was working on changed too. I didn't know how to write a good bio then, but no one did. The people in my MFA program for writing, well, we didn't communicate well with our bios. A lot of the bios were creative, full of flowery language and unusual likes and dislikes. Sometimes I felt like it was a competition to see who could be more hipster with their writer bio. I have some bio writing tips to share with you. We're going to talk about a few of these different things so that way you know how to write a good bio. And I updated my bio because there were different things going on in my first year of grad school than the year before. Bios are going to change and update over time. I'll say this isn't the bio that I had then, but it should have been. I didn't really understand what bio was for or how it could help me. And now that I do, I really hope that this helps you. So first, finding a photo of myself in my first year of grad school was hard. Instagram filters were really big then. I seem to have only taken photos of myself with friends, but even this would have worked fine if I focused on my face. Sure, the photo is not very clear, but it probably would work for a profile photo on social media. My bio would have read something like, Jennifer Van Alstyne is a first-year graduate fellowship student working on her MFA in Writing and Poetics at University. She's poetry editor of Bombay Gin, a national literary journal, and she's book reviews editor of Something on Paper, a poetics journal. Jennifer is an events assistant for the Jack Kerouac School. So my first tip for you is to think through all the things you do in grad school, not just the work you do in class. Are you teaching? Do you do service? What about clubs and activities? Are you doing something cool outside of grad school? Don't limit yourself. At the time, I focused on how I got a fellowship. I thought that was the thing that made me special. But the fellowship came with service responsibilities instead of teaching. I didn't really see them as separate things from my fellowship, so I didn't include them in my bio at the time. And being an editor of a poetics journal and an event assistant for visiting writers, those were my fellowship responsibilities. I didn't even include these, even though they were unique roles and responsibilities, but I should have. My next tip for you is about keywords. Keywords help people find you online, but most people don't understand how. Keywords are words or phrases, things that people might search for on Google. In this case, we're talking about keywords that are associated with us. Here are the keywords, the words and phrases in my bio that people might be searching for online. Some keywords have to do with our name or the profiles that show up about us. Other keywords are specific to the university. In this bio, I use 3 keywords that are associated with my program. And actually, that's the next tip. When it comes to keywords, a pro tip is to use the words and phrases that people are already searching for. A good example is that I use the spelling and punctuation that my school used, like for the name of my program, MFA in Writing and Poetics. The last 2 keywords in my bio are proper nouns. They're the names of journals I was an editor on. My last tip for you for your bio is to help people understand by including details. Let's focus on this section to see why. Because your bio is written for a general audience, you want to explain things in ways people can understand, and that usually means including more detail. After all, I might have just said something simple like this. So what's wrong with this? It's not a bad sentence. It does include some detail. But if I didn't already know what these keywords meant, I wouldn't have enough information to know what they are. Bombay gin, something on paper. They're italicized, so people may get that they're publications, but what kind of publication? Who knows? One important detail to add was the specific role I had at each journal. I had no idea what I wanted to do after grad school when I started. Including more detail would help more people understand what I did. The other detail I would add is a brief description of what each publication was. That way, there's no confusion. People kind of get the answer right when they're looking for it. So here's a rundown of the tips. Think through all the things you do in grad school. Use keywords and phrases, specifically the ones that people are already searching for online, and include details that help people reading your bio understand. There are things you can do to manage your online presence. There are things that you have control over, like your bio, social media, personal websites, and other online portfolios. By having things like a bio and a headshot, you'll be ready to share what people need when they want to mention you online. It's never too early or too late to get these ready. Do you take selfies? They're really good to have on hand. Because I believe so strongly in selfies and that they're a good option, I use them today to show people that they're totally okay, that the headshot that I use for everything is a selfie. So let's talk about some of the benefits that you'll get from showing up online, from being yourself and being able to talk about what you're doing when you want to. One of the best ways to manage your online presence is a LinkedIn profile. I like it because it's free and it's more dynamic than a lot of people think. You can add links and other types of media to your profile to make it interesting, and it's an important step to a good online presence. I want to use LinkedIn for my example. This is John. He's in his first year of grad school. He's not sure what he wants to do when he graduates, but he wants to give himself the best chance. He knows that next summer, an internship or maybe a job as a research assistant in a lab would be good. Both options provide work experience, recommenders for things like jobs and research grants. While John has a resume that he went to the Career Center for help with, he wants to do everything that he can. That's why John spent time updating his LinkedIn profile with things like a photo, a bio, his education, work experience, and John also added his volunteer experience from last summer. This is Erica. She's a scientist at a nearby university looking for help this summer in her lab. She has money in her lab budget to hire a research assistant. John heard about the position when he saw a flyer on the bulletin board for his department. He puts in an application right away. When Erica sees John's application, there's 5 others at the same time. She has to narrow it down. So Erica Googles John's name quickly. His LinkedIn profile comes up right away, and she's able to see his volunteer experience is relevant. That volunteer experience hadn't fit on John's resume, the one that he'd submitted. Because of it, John gets the interview. John's LinkedIn profile came up right away when Erica Googled him. It helped him land that interview, and it was a job that he specifically applied for. Having an online presence, something like a LinkedIn profile, is a great way to help people get to know you. Even though John is in grad school, his profile will help anyone curious to get to know him a bit better because it shows up at the top of Google search results. So what does a good online presence look like? Well, a good online presence helps people learn a little bit about you, like read a bio. It helps them see a photo of you so that they can recognize your face and know how to get in touch with you, like email or via direct message. A great online presence helps people do all three of those within a few minutes. There's so many benefits to a good online presence, like networking, collaboration, more opportunities, awareness, community, and building confidence. So, an online presence is great for networking. People that you'd like to connect with will better know how they can help you with a quick look at your LinkedIn profile or your personal website. Collaboration is a great way for people to work together on something. People don't need to be in the same place to collaborate. For instance, people from all over the world come to my YouTube channel for live conversations. I've collaborated with them live on video because we connected through social media. Your online presence can lead to great opportunities, from job opportunities, volunteering, conferences, and learning experiences. I found this benefit more when I entered my second master's program. I started to realize how social media could really be helpful for me as a grad student. Things like the professors and Facebook page and hashtag academic Twitter helped me know where to focus my energy in grad school and to know what was really most important for me. An online presence means greater awareness of who you are for people who are interested in learning a bit more about you. And that awareness is something that can grow over time and change depending on what you share. Because you have some control over your online presence, you can create awareness for new things too. Finding community online is a great benefit for your online presence. I've made real friends online. I've worked with clients who found me or heard of me online. Your online community will change based on the topics that you're interested in and what you want to see online. And your presence helps you find the right people and invites them to connect with you. Being online, being able to talk about myself, to be myself online built so much confidence. I work with really smart people, professors and scientists who do awesome work, but they're scared, perhaps just like you, about putting themselves out there. Once they start managing their online presence, the confidence that they get from connecting with people makes a big difference. So here's a rundown of some of the benefits of a good online presence: networking, collaboration, opportunities, awareness, community, and confidence. There are many ways to manage your online presence, and I want to touch briefly on three of them. So the three ways to manage your online presence are personal websites, LinkedIn profile or other digital portfolios, and social media profile. Personal websites are the best way to manage your online presence long term. They can change and grow with you over time. They can be one page or lots of pages for things like your bio, work experience, volunteering, hobbies and interests. You could share photos. You can also use it to create a portfolio or share projects that you work on at school. It's a great place to host recommendations or testimonials. You could write a blog about a topic of interest, or you could have a personal blog about your life. You could also have a page to share news or to link to places where you've been mentioned online. My personal website had just 2 pages when I was in college. My About page had a short bio and a headshot. And I also had a publications page for my poetry since I had my first publication then. My personal website has since grown then to 9 pages. And what's on those pages has changed over time too. A LinkedIn profile is highly recommended for everyone. While it's important when you're on the job market, it's actually the best alternative for a personal website. That's because you can write a bio, add a profile and cover photo. You can fill out every profile section. One of those sections I like is dedicated to skills. You can add up to 50 of them. Actually, try to add as many as you can and know that they will change over time. You can even ask your favorite professor for a short recommendation on LinkedIn. These actually go a long way with hiring managers. Your social media profiles are a great place to talk about what you're up to at school, to share a bit about your job or volunteering experience, and to let people know what your interests and hobbies are. You may not be on the job market now, but it's a myth that you should set your social media profiles to private. When you're on the job market, do not keep these private. Hiring managers may pass over you if they can't take a quick look at your social media. It is a good idea, though, to do a full check of your online presence before you apply to jobs, just in case. So I found many benefits of being online. I'm going to share some of them with you now. First is that I reconnected with my birth family in Peru. I have several brothers and sisters that I didn't know about. I had met and worked with people around the world. I've helped people read my work, both my poetry and my blog called The Social Academic, which was read in 131 countries last year. I have been invited to speak for organizations and universities, to collaborate on an international conference. I've gained confidence to start my own YouTube channel and start sharing live video. I was scouted for and after interviewing, offered a role on a reality TV show coming to Amazon Prime in the fall. Before you get too excited, I did have a scheduling conflict, so I wasn't able to join this year, but who knows, maybe a future season. But my favorite benefit is that people have been able to get to know me a bit. Being able to get to know me through my social media or my websites means that people feel more comfortable when we connect. Let's talk more about LinkedIn because I really think it's the best option for many of you. What comes to mind when you think of networking? How have you networked in the past? And if you feel like you haven't actively networked ever, that's okay too. We're going to talk a little bit more about networking. So, what do you think about networking? Well, the more that I learned about networking, the more I realized that the things I was already doing on social media, the ways that I was connecting with people in online spaces was networking. And when I look back on some of those relationships, even the ones that have only ever been online are real. They're long term. They've resulted in people learning about me, reading my work, and sharing it. Networking online can sometimes be more natural than networking in person. So let's talk about some ways to network online and what that can look like. So networking online is all about connecting with people one-on-one when you can't do it in person. We're talking about real people that you can have a conversation about in real time if you were together. That doesn't mean you have to hop on a Zoom call with them, although you can. There are lots of ways to connect with people online. So let's say that you have a poster in a conference this spring. You want to meet some other people at the conference, but it's virtual. Many virtual conferences have a way to network. Maybe there's a private chat feature or an organized networking hour. Maybe an event like the wind down on Instagram at the end of each day of this summit. Here are some ways to network, especially at virtual conferences like this one. So conferences often share an agenda, letting you know who's presenting and what on. If you find something of interest, you can check out the networking hour. You can attend the event live. You can Google the presenters to learn more about them. You can connect with them on social media. And you can even reach out to ask a question or set up some time to meet. You can also do these after the event once you've met someone or heard a presentation that you like. Connecting with people on social media is my favorite way to network. There are ways to network on every social media platform. So where should you network? Well, my first suggestion is to think about the places where you're already spending your time. For instance, if you spend a lot of time on Facebook already, think about the places on Facebook you can network online. For instance, many scholarly organizations and research associations have pages or groups on Facebook. There are even interest groups where people are engaged in conversations about a particular topic, like grad school. So think about where you already spend time and look into ways to network there. Hashtags can be a great way to find people to network with on social media. On many social media platforms, hashtags are a popular way people mark their content. By clicking on a hashtag, you can find other people talking about that same topic. Engaging with people online is more than just liking their post. When you like a tweet or a social media post, that's great. If you do it often, that person will know that you like what they share on social media. But that's not a particularly deep connection. They probably don't know why you like what they share. When you comment or reply to someone online, it lets them know that you read what they shared, that you cared enough to respond, and what you liked if you share it. So a comment or reply is better than a like. You can also share the post. You could ask a question, join in a conversation. You could read the article they shared or send a direct message. There's lots of ways to network and connect with people on social media. So there are more direct ways of networking when you're engaging with someone privately. They can be asynchronous like email and direct messaging, or real time like video conferencing. Networking online can happen through associations that you're connected to, like social media groups, listservs, and newsletters. Where you go to school, alumni groups and networks, and interest-based websites, blogs, and groups. Networking can also be personal. It's not just for professional connections. Being open and sharing your work with family and friends can be so rewarding. LinkedIn is my favorite way to network. Networking with LinkedIn is really effective, and I want to talk about why. Your LinkedIn profile shows up high in Google search results. That means it works well for managing your online presence. Your profile can be updated over time, and that means that as you change, your profile can grow with you. LinkedIn's dynamic. You can add media like links, PDFs, and articles, and that makes LinkedIn work really well as a portfolio. Having a filled out LinkedIn profile invites people to explore it. My LinkedIn profile helps people learn more about me. When you fill out your LinkedIn profile, it gives other people the chance to decide if they want to connect with you. Sure, you could send out a personalized connection invitation each time. It's what some people recommend. Sometimes you have something personal to say. Like if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you might say something like, "Hey, Jennifer, I enjoyed your presentation at the Grad School Success Summit. I would like to connect on LinkedIn." But sometimes you want to be connected because you're interested in them, but you don't really have something specific to say as a reason to connect. That's okay. Your profile is like an invitation for them to learn more about you. When you send a connection request to someone, it's up to them to decide if they want to connect with you. If you send a personal request that's forced, it may just be ignored. So sending a connection request lets them see your headline, your profile photo, and your cover photo. These are the three things that people see right away when you send an invitation to connect. Your invitation will arrive with the option to accept, ignore, or visit your profile. Your headline, profile photo, and cover photo should be enough for a potential connection to take the next step. Some people will be like, yes, that person seems interesting. They'll just accept. Others will ignore because they're busy and they don't know you or don't have time to look right now. That's okay. There are people who don't check their LinkedIn profile for months, so don't feel bad if you get a bunch of ignores. But view profile, it's a great option for many people who are receiving a connection request because exploring someone's LinkedIn profile is a great way to learn more about them and to know if there's someone good to connect with. If your LinkedIn profile is filled out, people visiting it will have a good idea of who you are, what you're up to in school, and your work experience. LinkedIn makes it easy for people to get in touch. They can message you through LinkedIn or get your email address. They can also connect in ways that you share in your bio, like on social media. There are 3 reasons why I like LinkedIn so much for networking. It shows up really high in those Google search results. It can be updated and grow with you over time. And it's dynamic. You can add links and other media. So that's it for today's agenda. I did a lot of things in college I should have talked about more. When I went to grad school, I started connecting with people online, being more open about what I was up to. The first mentions of my name online happened about my time in college. And Googling yourself is the best way to find out what comes up when people search for you online. If you search in incognito or private mode, it will help you see those kind of unpersonalized results too. If you have fear or anxiety about being found online, that's totally normal. You're just like me. You have more control over your online presence than you may have thought. You're going to learn and grow in so many ways during grad school. Set yourself up for success by writing a bio and having a selfie that can be used as a headshot. Your bio and your online presence, they're going to change over time. That's okay. A good online presence helps people learn about you, see a photo of you, know how to get in touch. And a great online presence does this quickly, but there's so many benefits. It's definitely worth putting some energy into your online presence. Personally, an online presence has made a really big difference for me. There's so many ways to manage your online presence, like personal websites, LinkedIn, and social media. But LinkedIn's my top recommendation for grad students like you to manage your online presence. So, do you want to network more with me? Head to the networking page here on FeedLoop conference platform. I would love to connect with you further. You can search for my name. And if you want to set up some time to meet with me on Zoom, you'll find the link to my private calendar, or feel free to start a private chat. All right, time for the Q&A. What questions do you have for me? Think of this part as an Ask Me Anything. I'm definitely happy to answer your questions.
Oh, Jennifer. Okay, can we get some raised hands in here to thank Jennifer for this amazing session and all of this info? I mean, I was just typing away on Twitter. That was so great. And we have a lot of questions already. So we have about 20. So let's see how many we can get through. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, so the first question asks, should we separate our social and personal pages from our professional pages?
That's a great question. It's actually probably the most common question that I get. And my answer for most people is no. It is so much work to have separate profiles and to manage everything separately, unless you really need to, because the profile that you're sharing is about a really niche topic, something really specific. I don't recommend having separate personal and professional profiles for anyone.
All right, thank you. And then the next one, you shared a bit, but like any specific tips for navigating Twitter? I know you mentioned like hashtag academic Twitter, but any other tips you have for navigating as a graduate student?
Yeah, so there's a few hashtags that people tend to use a lot for general conversations about academia. Hashtag academic Twitter, hashtag PhD chat or PhD advice. Hashtag ACWRI, ACWRI is for academic writing. So these hashtags have general conversations going on, but the best way to kind of connect with people and to find conversations that you enjoy are checking out these hashtags and seeing who's talking most about topics you're interested in. This is some place where you can find general information, but as a grad student, you might be looking for people within your specific field. So you can find people that are having like the most conversations using this, and then see who they're talking to, see what kinds of conversations they're having that people are answering. I think that the people you connect with on Twitter, it's like way better when you like what you're seeing, when you like the content that's being shared. It means you're more likely to engage. So don't connect with people where you're like, I don't really like their content. I don't really want to see stuff from them. You can just, not follow those people and just follow people you're interested in.
Absolutely, I love that.
Oh, I do want
Says,
to add, sorry, to that, I want
yeah,
to add who you follow. It's okay if that changes over time too. So if you follow someone now you're interested in, you don't, really care for their content in a couple of years, that's totally fine. Don't limit your feelings about who you follow.
yes, absolutely agree. Someone else asks, they have anxiety about being online out of fear of being perceived unfavorably. How do you manage what's appropriate? It seems so easy to get in trouble. I'll even throw in there getting canceled online. So what would you say to this person?
So that's
And all
something
of us.
that really a lot of people worry about. People are worried about saying the wrong thing. And I do want you to know that it is possible for you to say something that's going to anger a lot of people. It could anger people who will attack you in ways that you can't control and that you can't stop. But that is pretty rare. When that happens, there are steps that you can take to limit who's contacting you by keeping your profile private, by muting conversations, by blocking people. But that's something that you can really only control as a reaction. You can't keep people from getting mad unless you know something that you're going to say is like super divisive. You're like really anxious because you know that it's going to piss people off. Like that's the kind of thing, maybe just text a friend and be like, hey, I want to post this. Is this okay? You can check in with someone if you're worried about that. But I do want to let you know that's a possibility. I do want to stress this does not happen to many people. The level of being canceled on academic Twitter is like not very high. Most people who end up getting into some kind of negative spat find it resolved within maybe a month or so. And it was just like maybe internal or maybe something that was within the specific field, and people tend to forget about it. So when these kinds of things happen, like there's reason to feel stressed out about it. But until they do, I really recommend just not worrying about it. And, if you have a post and you're like, hey, I think people are going to get mad about this, ask a friend, hey, what do you think if I post this? And ask yourself, how important to you is it that you post it? How important is it to you, knowing the potential for negative outcomes? How important it is for you to share it in that place?
I think that's great advice. Someone else asks, how do you ensure people do not steal your content? And there was kind of an emphasis, like if you're writing a blog, how do you avoid that?
That's a great question. So there are a couple of ways you can keep people legally from stealing your content. You can protect yourself by getting a copyright. It's usually like a $50 application fee to the government. It's something you'd have to update every year. Do a lot of people do this? Honestly, no. It's a lot of work for people who are moving around. Like you have to update your address. There's like all sorts of things involved with it. Being present online to the point where people can Google you and connect it with the thing you're talking about is the best way to protect your online presence. It's the best way to protect your content, because as soon as someone types that phrase into Google, your stuff is going to come up first, and it's going to be clear that you posted it first, and then it's there. So I protect myself online by making sure that I'm writing content that is linked to my name. It's linked to my website and my domain. Make sure that I'm getting the website traffic for that. On social media, there's really nothing that I can do to stop people from stealing my content. But if you do see someone doing that, you can report it to the social media platform. It is not allowed by their terms of service, so they will review it. They honestly take a long time to review it, but they will they will look into it. And if the other person is found in violation, they will not only have it removed, they'll probably be blocked on that platform. So do report it if someone is stealing your content. If someone's stolen your account or anything like that, let all of your friends know and have everyone report them, and that will solve that problem pretty quick.
Yes, that's great. All right, we got 16 to go. So let's see. And we have about 10 more minutes. So how do you deal with trolls, especially on Twitter?
So trolls on Twitter should be dealt with by muting them or blocking them. I would say that a block is something that you should reserve for actual trolls, not just people who are annoying you or pissing you off, but people who are continually bugging you. And that's because if you block a troll, sometimes it will like alert them if they're like online at the same time that you've blocked them, and then they'll send all their friends after you, and then you have to go and block like 50 other people. This is not something that happens often, but I do recommend using mute first as a tactic. A lack of response is the best response in most of these situations. The people who I do see responding in some way tend to get ongoing backlash. Oftentimes that backlash tends to leave social media. It might end up on blogs or forums, and you don't really want that. You want to make sure that you have control over that. And so by muting people, you're at least able to see the conversation and know what's happening. And you can react to each thing that happens.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of people want to know, how do you get over the fear of sharing your website or blog with your family and friends?
Oh, that's a good one. Honestly, I recommend when people feel fear or anxiety to say that when they're sharing it. So if you've been nervous to share your personal website or your blog or something with family and friends, write a post about how you felt nervous and maybe why you felt nervous. You're not sure what people will think about it. You're not sure if anyone will read it. All of these things are true. I've felt every one of those feelings before. And when I started getting over thinking that like people wouldn't care, or that like my topic was too niche for friends and family to care about, I started realizing that people really just wanted to support me. They were really happy about what I was doing, and they wanted to find a way to connect if I let them. So get over your fear by being more open about it would be my recommendation.
I love that. I love that. People want to support you. Yes. Oh, I just wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah.
Did you create your website yourself or pay someone to do it? And any suggestions for DIYing a beginner website?
Yeah, so I built my website myself. People pay me to build their websites for them, which is something that I really enjoy. But the first thing I recommend for most people is DIY. So I want to tell you that my top recommendation for DIYing your own website is a managed WordPress host. There are a lot of people who will do a self-hosted WordPress where you don't have to pay money, or you pay a really low amount to be able to have a domain name. But it doesn't come with updates. It doesn't come with security or privacy protection. These are things that you don't want to have to deal with or drop. Like, you're a busy grad student. If you get malware on your website, you don't want to have to like drop everything to make sure that you're fixing that. A managed WordPress host like WordPress.com is something that would really help anyone be able to have a personal website, not have to worry about security or updates, and learn how to kind of build it one page at a time. People think that WordPress might be too hard, but it's quite intuitive. And if you get the managed WordPress, then you usually get some kind of customer support or live chat where they can answer questions for you.
Nice. Thank you. Someone else asks, what's your advice on maintaining multiple social media platforms and posting consistently? This person has a lot of platforms because there are people kind of on these different social media networks.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that that's something that so many people struggle with. How do you stay in touch everywhere when like you have people you want to keep in touch with everywhere? The answer is you really can't. It's really difficult to post all the time and post consistently and do it on multiple platforms. So the response to that is to post consistently, even if it's not often. For instance, on my Instagram, I probably post once a month, maybe not even. I tell people you really don't have to post as often as you might think in order to keep community, in order to stay engaged. And that's because when you engage on social media, it should be about those conversations. It should be about commenting or replying to things, or actually liking the things that you're looking at because you're enjoying them. So when you maybe post a little bit less content because you're in multiple places, it gives you time to focus more of your energy on those conversations. So that's what I would suggest.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Varshawn asks, is there such thing as a too long or too short bio?
That's a really good question. The answer is no. A short bio is totally fine. It could be one sentence. You might actually need a one sentence bio if you have a byline in a local newspaper. A longer bio is something that you might want to watch out for. It's not that longer bios are bad. It's that when most people write bios, they're not very good at storytelling and explaining why things are important, or they include a lot of lists and it gets really dense. So when you have a longer bio, people are a little bit less interested in reading the whole thing. You really got to make sure that your writing is on point and that you're not overwhelming people with your longer bio.
Someone else asks, well, they kind of have a comment, but they have some issues with social media as far as like screen time. They've had some unsavory experiences, but they recognize that as a new grad student, they need a website, but they don't really plan to participate in Instagram and or Facebook. So, do you think that will be used against them when it's time to start applying for jobs?
I see this comment, and it says that there was maybe one negative kind of experience that they had on LinkedIn that kept them from continuing on the platform. LinkedIn is really my top recommendation for people because a website takes so much work to maintain. It takes work to keep it updated. And if you aren't on social media, if you're not writing a blog and sharing it someplace, it's unlikely that you're going to be getting organic traffic from Google to your website because there's not necessarily enough for people there. So when you're applying for jobs, LinkedIn is really what people are looking for. Even if you've had one negative issue there, I recommend trying again. I think there's a way to turn off the messaging system, like if that's an issue. Having a filled out profile is really, I would say, the best kind of cure for that, because when you don't have a filled out profile, sometimes you do get more body messages or spammy messages on LinkedIn.
Okay, thank you, thank you. And someone, talks about they're seeing more professionals, maybe more corporate folks on LinkedIn versus academics. Do you find a lot of academics on LinkedIn?
I find almost all academics are on LinkedIn. They don't all use it actively, but that's actually not necessarily the point. On Twitter, when we're having conversations with people, sure, we see people who are having, conversations about topics that we like, but we're not always going to connect with them in deeper ways. That's not a bad thing, but LinkedIn helps us connect in ways that other social media platforms don't. Now, most academics aren't sure how to use LinkedIn. They're not sure how it benefits them, but they are on it. And they have generally filled out their profiles at least enough to have things like their major kind of research area on them. That means that when you go on LinkedIn, if you search for your area, you can find pretty much professors and grad students all around the world who are working on the same subject. That's something that you cannot do with Twitter or Instagram. So I do recommend LinkedIn for all academics because it's the best way to search for other academics.
Yeah, I think that was a great point. Okay, so 10 more questions. Let's see, we're gonna do a lightning round. So if you, however, they're not yes or no's, but quick answers so we can try and get through everybody. Someone says, any advice for common names or those who have changed their names? This person changed, they got married, and so they're unsure how to tie together their experiences with their maiden name to those that will have the new name after Google and digital platforms.
Yeah, so in this instance, I would recommend including both names in your bio sections. This is one way that SEO, search engine optimization, when we change our name, it makes it harder for search engines to make a connection between both of those instances of you. So you want to make sure to use both names as long as you can, and choose one for publications, for academics, for whatever, because that's the name you're going to want to be using in the future. It does take a couple of years to build up those connections enough on Google to stop using the original name. If you have a common name, I recommend using a middle name or adding some other keyword to when you mention your name or to your profile that's going to come up often. So if you're using a domain name and you're a scientist, you could say Kelly Smith Scientist, and then that would be something that would become a keyword on its own in Google.
Nice. Some people say you should connect with as many people on LinkedIn versus people you actually know. So as many or people you actually know.
As many people as you're actually interested in connecting with. Don't connect with everyone, just connect with people you'd actually want to have a conversation with if you could, even people you don't know.
Gotcha. What's your number one tip for maintaining relationships over time from connections you make through social media?
Just follow up with people. If you haven't chatted with someone in a while, or if you haven't liked one of their posts in a while, leave a comment or send a direct message. Just say hi, or let them know that you liked their recent post by actually sending them a message that says that. That's a great way to follow up.
Nice. As an introvert, how do I come out of my shell and join online networking?
Ooh, great question. I'm super introverted. So one way that I practice doing that is just trying to kind of find a friend, someone that I'd actually want to hang out and talk with, and trying to connect with them. Because I think once you start connecting, you actually feel like you've made a real connection from that. It makes a big difference. And it makes it easier if you're going for informational interviews or looking to interview people about jobs down the line. So practice starting for maybe friendships, and work up towards collaborations and potential employers.
Nice. tell us one website you go to find commonly used keywords for academics.
Oh, I don't go to any websites. I mean, I'll Google something or I'll see what people are talking about online because any of these keywords are going to change over time and the keywords are going to be different depending on your field. So it's definitely about ongoing research and seeing what conversations people are having with keywords now.
Okay, cool. So someone interested in having a blog that talks about different topics, but is that is that okay, I guess, for your personal website?
You could definitely have a blog about different topics. It makes it harder for people to subscribe to you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't be reading your content. One thing that I would recommend for having a blog about different topics is that you'll want to share it pretty often. Like you need to keep sharing a new blog post that you've written because people aren't going to see it all the time. So they need to be keep being invited to read your work.
Love it. Okay, we got 3 more and I think we'll make it.
Let's do it.
Yes, someone said they once shared what they do on LinkedIn and it's religious studies, and someone told them not to post that content since religious content is taboo, but that's their domain. Like any
that
other
person was wrong. The person who told you that was just wrong. And you don't have to respond to them if you don't want to, but like, just don't listen to them because they're wrong. You can post about whatever topics you're interested in writing about. And religion is not a taboo topic if that's your area of research, or even if it's not. I see people post on LinkedIn about being religious or about attending services and all sorts of stuff like that. Do not limit yourself and don't care about the haters.
Yes, love it. Okay, someone says I do best connecting in person. That's me, and I don't. I keep getting requests from people I don't like working with for school. What's the point if you move faster in person?
You can just tell people if people are connecting with you, you don't want to connect with online because you connect better in person. You should just tell that person by sending them a direct message or letting them know in person that you're better in person. You don't really connect with people online. I think people are fine hearing that you don't want to connect with them if you give them a reason, especially if it's an in-person thing. People totally understand that.
Love it. And then the last question is, love listening to your advice, a little love to you. Can you talk a little bit about SEO? Maybe for like one blog.
SEO is search engine optimization. It's the things that we can do to help keywords show up higher in Google. So like if someone is Googling my name, Jennifer Van Alstyne, the first things that are going to show up are my website, my LinkedIn profile, and my business website for the Academic Designer LLC. So to make those 3 things show up high, Google knows that those things are connected with my name. That's because I use my name on them. It's linked to a domain name that's about me. It's registered to me. So all of these are ways to make greater connections in Google. When you include your research topic in your social media bio, or write about it on your LinkedIn profile, or include a page about it on your website, these will improve connections between your name and that research subject in Google search results. So the best thing that you can do to improve your SEO, to improve the results in Google, is to talk more about what you do online.
Love it. Oh, Jennifer, you are a well of knowledge. Oh my gosh, y'all just raise your hand. We're going to raise our hands in the chat to thank Jennifer for just sharing so much with us. I feel like I'm motivated to do better with my personal page.
Yay!
And just thank you. And Jennifer, it's just so awesome to have you here at the summit. Thank you for always supporting it. And you all, we're gonna do a half an hour of networking on FeedLoop. Please connect with Jennifer. If you all are on Zoom, we will include information to connect with Jennifer as well in an email. And Jennifer, thanks again.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. See you soon.